Welcome to Coaching Conversations. On this episode, we have Scott Phillips, who's a senior consulting project manager in a software company. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Kapil.
Great to have you on board, Scott, and it's a pleasure to have yourself and just to have the time to actually speak to us today. And of course, we can go through a range of topics in our conversation, but in particular, I believe that you want to speak about ambition and drive. So the stage is set for you, Scott. So where do you want to start?
Thank you. So I guess I'd like to start with perhaps worrying, which leads me to the drive and ambition side. So with the coaching sessions that I had, one of the first things that we looked at is that I worry quite a bit, and I felt that that wasn't the best use of my energy. And so with the coaching session, I looked at worrying and looked at whether it's good or bad, and found that there's some good worrying, some bad worrying. And in essence, I needed to get rid of the bad worrying. So the real outcome from that was that I took the action to assign some worry time every day at a particular time. And in my case, it was 5:15 at the end of the working day, and only 15 minutes just to write down my worries from the day and then assess them. And I would look to see, is this a real worry or not? Some of them I could just cross off straight away. Then others I would say, well, this is a genuine worry. What can I do to sort of influence this or change this? If I couldn't, then it would get crossed off again because it's beyond my control. And then anything that was left, I could put a plan in to mitigate that worry, which made me feel much better. And therefore that I think helped to take away the worry of doing something to help me drive myself at work and in my personal life and with ambition as well. And then with the drive and ambition side, the coaching sessions again helped me to formulate a plan. And I'm very much I like having a plan, especially coming from a project management background. It's good to have that plan and something to follow, and also to have some targets. So I saw or I felt in my life that I didn't have as much drive or ambition as what I wanted to. And my concern around that, or possible worry, was that I would remain stagnant within my career and within life, and I really didn't want that. And in my case, that's to become a principal project manager, and then also what I need to do to achieve that. So I looked at what the attributes are for a principal project manager and benchmarked myself against that. And where there were gaps, I was able to identify them and put a plan of action to address those. What it also led is it made me feel much better after the session, and almost helped me get that ambition and drive, because I felt like I had a plan, I had a direction. I felt more confident that I could do it and that it was achievable. And therefore that led to other things as well. For example, I started putting myself forward for things that I wouldn't normally put myself forward, and that's had really good benefits for me within my career.
Yeah, what I think is quite remarkable is that how you put that worrying can also be good and bad, depending how you foresee yourself. I think a lot of people kind of make the connection that worrying is always bad, but actually I think what you're saying, Scott, that worrying can be good, and you can use that worrying to your advantage. Would you agree?
I completely agree there. It's how you approach things, isn't it? It's that mentality that you have. And for me, coaching changed the approach that I have to many different things. And it didn't just apply to things that, or the focus areas or topics that we covered in the coaching. And all the things I learned has changed how I approach many different things in my life. And that's not just only in the workplace, that has extended to my personal life as well.
So when you're talking about ambition and drive and how that changes over time, Scott, how does that, because you were mentioning, of course, that you had some worries and should you do this and should you do that, like we went through the coaching session. So I'm just wondering, how has that impacted on your self-confidence in putting yourself forward?
Oh, it's my self-confidence has definitely grown, because I think each time that you try something new and push yourself forward and to do more, each time you succeed, it gives you that additional confidence. But you're not going to succeed every time you try. And even when you don't succeed, it can help with your self-confidence, because you can say, I've tried that, I can learn from this, and I can do it better next time. And it's having that positive attitude to things. And that helped me massively with coaching, because I think a lot of the things we initially addressed were quite negative topics of conversation, such as worry, stress, but the later coaching sessions developed more into positive things. And I think that's because my attitude and outlook on things was changing as I progressed through the coaching.
Also, something that I realize also is when you talk about trying something new and being aware that something that you could try can go wrong, and that's still okay as long as you're still trying, because confidence is still grown through actually accomplishing something, but also not accomplishing, but still wanting to try to do that piece again the next time round. So what's quite interesting is about how you talk about ambition, and obviously you've been in the workplace for many years now in the professional scheme, and let's say I'm a colleague in your workplace and I'm lacking ambition, or I have no ambitions, or I want some but I don't know how to get them, or where do I go to? What could you say to a colleague or co-worker who's going through that phase, or where they're trying to find the ambition but they don't know where to look first?
So I would highly recommend coaching, and my coaching with yourselves was the first time that I ever did this, and I did have my reservations and I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and I can tell you it far exceeded my expectations. Not to say that I didn't have high expectations of your coaching anyway, but I wasn't sure what it was going to give me, and actually it far exceeded my expectations and was very different to what I expected. In the coaching sessions, we ended up going into topics of conversation that I would never imagine that we would get into, with the sort of subject area that we originally agreed to look at the beginning of each session. And some of the sessions went very, very deep, which really surprised me, but actually made me realize that there was a lot, I guess, in my subconscious that I never really appreciated was impacting the way I approached different things.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that really is the power of coaching. There's no doubt about that. So Scott, now when you're looking at your ambition and drive now, how do you think that's going to help you and support you in the future?
It's given me a mechanism, or a different way to approach things in life now. I may have a situation or an area that I feel I need to improve, or I'm not too comfortable with. I can ask myself particular questions and make an assessment and analyze it better than what I could do before I had the coaching. I think what would be ideal for me, if I could have coaching on tap all the time, that would certainly be the ideal situation, but unfortunately that can't be the case. But certainly the coaching sessions I've had have better set me up to try and help myself more. I think you can just only increase the benchmark and improve each time.
So what would you say would be the biggest learning for you, like, for yourself, Scott, where you've actually learned about how to get around with worrying and actually using that as fuel to create ambitions for yourself and the drive along that journey?
I think the best lesson for me is that I guess it's not just one thing. It's a series of different things that I need to do differently in the future. For example, if I find I'm worrying or I've got an anxiety, is to make sure I pause, because I never did that before coaching. Coaching gave me a great opportunity to pause and think about things, which I hadn't done in years, well, ever probably in my life, sort of 30 odd years, and I've never done that, and it was coaching that made me do that. So it'd be now a lesson for me is to pause and think about it and assess it and ask those questions that we've mentioned. And it's also to create a plan with targets as well. And I know that's probably sounds very obvious to people, but it's these simple things that I think we forget or don't appreciate, or we neglect to do. And it's sometimes these really simple things that make the biggest differences.
Yeah, absolutely true. I would agree with that. And so if a colleague came up to you at work, and maybe had a chat with you and asked for some advice in relation to ambition and drive and career progress and all that sort of stuff, what would you say would be the 3 things that you would maybe suggest that person should do?
So I'd certainly recommend coaching, because I found that had a massive positive impact for me. The second thing would be to pause and think about where they want to be, both in the medium and long term. And then the third thing would be to look at what attributes they need or what they need to do to get to that place, and then put a plan together with targets to achieve that.
So really trying to formulate a plan where they can see themselves actually, like, going from one step to the next.
And that's a really good point that you make there, Kapil, that one of the I guess techniques or tools that coaching taught me was to visualize where I want to be or what I want to do. And that visualization was brilliant for me, to actually visualize where you want to be and what you want to be. Help me sort of get some of that confidence, and I guess get that realization that actually if I can visualize it, then I can do it. And that was a very powerful tool and technique.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and it's something that I do a lot with my clients. There will always be at least one session where we are visualizing whether that's going on a particular journey where certain things happens and what comes out of that, and relate that to one's life. Visualization is massively powerful tool for driving yourself forward.
Yeah, and I've certainly felt that, and it's something that I'm trying to do more as well, that visualization. And I think that's not just visualization for something like drive and ambition, or where you want to be in your career, or that can also be visualization for relaxation and forgetting about worries, and visualizing what you would be as a person that didn't worry so much. And that's, I think, one of the things we went through, Paul, and I think we visualized every topic that we went through.
Yeah, that's true.
So I can imagine that for a lot of people that this concept of visualization is quite bizarre, because you're being asked to visualize your life, what's actually best for you, what do you want to do? Like, how do you do that? Do you close your eyes? Do you have to look in the distance? Talk us through that journey, Scott, where you actually had to do this visualization very first time, and how that journey panned out for you.
So I can imagine it can be different for different people, but for me, Paul led me through the first visualization, so asked me the right questions to think about where I am, what I'm doing, and for me, if I remember rightly, Paul, I closed my eyes because I found that easier, and it was the pertinent questions were asked for me to help me imagine where I should be in my visualization. But I think after a few of those sessions, I was able to do it myself and get into that frame of how I visualize and what I should be thinking of.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly what we did. I used a particular journey from a valley up a mountain, and certain things are happening on the way up on the mountain. There's something else happening, and then as we go down the mountain, things are happening again, and then we come back down to the valley. And that was the first session we did. And after that, really, you just took it away yourself and did your own visualization, which I thought was really, really powerful.
Yeah, and that's where the coaching is key, to give you these techniques. Because if I hadn't have had the coaching, well, for one, I wouldn't have even thought of the concept of visualization. But even if I had, I wouldn't know how to do it and how to do it well. And through the technique that Paul took me through from the first session, that gave me a technique to use for the future sessions and for the rest of my life now.
Scott, that was great to hear about your experience with coaching and ambition and drive. So now we come to the end of the interview, and as you know, now it's the time for our viewers to meet Scott the person. So we got some very quick questions for you that we hope you'll be able to answer as honestly as possible. And I think Kapil's got the first one.
I do. So Scott, my first question to you is, who is or who was your childhood superhero?
So I know this is going to sound a little bit cheesy, but actually it was, I guess there's two of them. It was my parents. If I combine them as one unit, they worked extremely hard to provide for my sister and I, and it was actually my parents that gave me the drive to do well at school, etc. And so to me, they're my heroes.
Great. So I got a very quick question for you here. Ferrari or Aston Martin?
Aston Martin, and that's mainly due to the fact that I've been involved in manufacturing, so I like to support British manufacturing, and they're my favourite car as well.
Would you rather cook or would you rather order in?
Cook.
So what would be your favourite meal to cook, Scott?
Oh, I like variety actually. One of my favourites is macaroni cheese, though, a good comfort food.
How do you take your coffee?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't drink coffee, no. That'd have to be, how do I take my tea?
How do you take your tea?
So I guess it's the way that you make tea, and so it's the milk in first, then the tea bag, then the hot water, and then leave it for at least 4 or 5 minutes.
So Scott, if you are out walking on a beach and someone came up to you and said, give me some advice, how do I get a better life? And they want 3 things, but it can't be 3 things that you already said in this interview. So what other 3 things would you tell them to do to have a better life?
I would say spend as much time as you can with friends and family. I would say grab any opportunity that comes up. And I would say focus, or make sure you get the right balance between work and family life. And the reason why I didn't focus just on family life is I enjoy work and I get a lot of satisfaction from it, and that helps me in my home life as well. So I think it's important to get a balance between the two and make sure you're doing something that you enjoy for work and that you get some sort of satisfaction out, because that's going to make you a much happier person and a much more fulfilled person.
Thanks for that. That was some very wise words. And I think we got the final question from Kapil now.
Yeah, so Scott, what is your definition of success in life?
Very good point. I would say that it would be a two-parter. So one would be success with my career, and that's being recognised by my my colleagues as being successful in my work and doing well, and also by the customers that I serve. I take that very important and take a lot of pride that my customers and my colleagues have trust in me, and that I have a high level of integrity. I guess the second part is to make sure that I allow my children to grow up in a friendly and supportive environment, and in order to allow them to thrive.
That sounds great. A lot of words of wisdom there. Scott, it's been fantastic that you've given up your time to be together with us here on Coaching Conversation. We really, really appreciate it. And we want to say to our viewers, if you want to comment on this, then please leave a message. And we would also be grateful for if you click subscribe and like for Coaching Conversation. So again, Scott, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. It was great to have you.
Thank you both for your time and for the life-changing experience that you gave me. So thank you.
It's been a pleasure, Scott, and we'll be more than happy to have you on the show again. So thanks again for your time, and hopefully we speak again soon.
It'd be a pleasure.